Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're navigating a really pivotal document for safeguarding our digital financial landscape.
Yes, the CyberResilience fundamental requirements from the Saudi Central Bank. SAMA.
Exactly, Sama. Think of it as a foundational blueprint, really charting the course for new financial entities operating within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
And in our modern world, well, we all have incredibly high expectations, don't we? Seamless experiences, constant availability.
And of course, that ironclad protection of our sensitive financial data. In finance, that's not just an expectation, it's the bedrock of trust.
Absolutely.
Now, fintech in particular, it's this engine of incredible innovation, right? Pushing boundaries with new services, new
It
platforms.
really is. But with that rapid evolution comes, an entirely new spectrum of cyber risks.
Right. So our objective in this deep dive, our mission, if you like, is to be your expert guides. We're going to meticulously walk you through this document, section by section.
Like a master class, almost.
Precisely. We aim to extract the most crucial insights, really illuminate the strategic thinking behind each requirement, and make sure you grasp every critical detail.
And what's particularly compelling here is how this document directly confronts the complexities of that rapid technological advancement. Its very existence, well, it speaks to a proactive approach.
Building resilience from the ground up,
Exactly. Ensuring that as financial services innovate and expand, their foundational security matures right alongside them in lockstep.
which, naturally, prompts us to consider a fundamental challenge. How precisely do you cultivate an environment that's ripe for innovation while at the same time guaranteeing unyielding security?
That's the core tension, isn't it? In this specific iteration we're looking at, the Cyber Resilience Fundamental Requirements, it's version 1.0.
Published back in January 2022.
Right. And that timestamp is important. It positions the document as a timely, quite deliberate response to the escalating digital transformation happening within the financial sector.
Okay, so our journey begins where the document itself starts,
Yeah.
with its introduction.
Makes sense. Start at the beginning.
This section, it paints a vivid picture of today's financial environment, highlighting those very high expectations we just touched upon: continuous service, seamless experiences.
And it really underscores the critical importance of information assets and online financial services, not just for individual companies, but
For the wider society.
yeah.
Indispensable to global and national economies, pivotal for digital innovation, and crucially, significant for national security, especially within the Saudi financial sector.
That's a key focus here.
Now, if you just stop and contemplate the potential fallout, imagine a major disruption to a large-scale financial service.
The implications become starkly apparent very quickly.
Imagine a significant payment network or maybe an entire banking infrastructure just becoming inoperable for an extended period.
The ripple effects, they'd be immediate, severe. Individuals unable to access funds,
Businesses grinding to a halt.
and just a profound erosion of public confidence. It wouldn't just threaten economic stability, it would impact daily life itself.
And that grave potential impact powerfully reinforces the urgent need to meticulously safeguard sensitive data, transactions, and ensure that constant availability of services. It's all about upholding trust in the Saudi financial sector.
Looking at the broader landscape, this document, it explicitly acknowledges that while fintech brings undeniable benefits, and we've seen a tremendous surge in novel products, real value creation,
Absolutely.
it concurrently introduces, and this is their phrasing, cyber resilience risks that may impact the financial stability of the financial sector ecosystem.
And this isn't just theoretical, is it?
Not at all. We have numerous global precedents where, unfortunately, the swift adoption of technology without a corresponding focus on security has led to significant breaches, even systemic disruptions.
So SAMA's been thinking about this for a while.
Oh, yes. They've maintained a forward-thinking posture here. As far back as November 2019, they established a regulatory sandbox framework.
A sandbox. What was the
Yeah.
goal there?
Well, twofold, really. First, to gain a deep understanding and thoroughly assess the impact of new technologies within the KSA's financial services market.
Okay, I understand the tech.
And second, to accelerate the transformation of the Saudi market into a sophisticated, smart financial center. It's intentionally designed to attract both local and international firms.
Providing them a controlled live environment.
Exactly. To rigorously test digital solutions before their wider deployment in the kingdom. And it's precisely for these newly formed entities, or maybe those in their formative operational stages within KSA, that these cyber resilience fundamental requirements were developed.
That raises an interesting point. Why the strong emphasis on new entities specifically?
Well, it largely centers on resource allocation and strategic timing. Startups, nascent firms, they typically operate with more constrained resources compared to the big established financial institutions.
Makes sense. Less budget, smaller teams, maybe?
Right. So for these emerging players, integrating robust resilience measures right from the outset, taking that foundational prioritized approach, it's vastly more efficient, more cost-effective.
And trying to retrofit security later onto a complex, evolving system.
Exactly. By embedding security into their very architecture from day one, SAMA ensures these entities are built on a secure foundation. Security isn't just an add-on, it's fundamental.
Okay, so considering those resource limitations for newer players, what are the core objectives driving these fundamental requirements?
The document really articulates two primary aims.
Okay.
First, it's designed to assist entities in proactively managing and effectively mitigating a broadened spectrum of cybersecurity and resilience risks, specifically those pertinent to the KSA financial sector context.
Acknowledging the unique landscape there.
Precisely. And second, and this is crucial for those resource-constrained startups, it aims to focus their resources on a fundamental yet highly impactful set of controls, geared towards robust information asset protection.
So maximum protective impact where it matters most.
You got it. Get the basics right first and foremost.
But how does SAMA enable these, burgeoning firms to meet these objectives without completely overwhelming them?
That's where the clever part comes in. It provides a prioritized set of control requirements.
Not the whole kitchen sink, then.
Exactly. Not an exhaustive, all-encompassing list that could stifle agility. It's a concentrated set targeting the most critical areas.
And how is that achieved?
Through strategic alignment. The structure, the content of these fundamental requirements, they're harmonized with other significant SAMA regulatory frameworks.
Like the Cybersecurity Framework.
The CSF.
Yes, the CSF, and also the Business Continuity Management Framework, the BCMF.
What's the benefit of aligning them like that?
Well, the advantages are substantial. It ensures consistency across the entire financial sector. That streamlines future compliance efforts as these new entities inevitably grow and mature.
Right, avoids having to learn totally different rules later. Precisely. It helps build a unified, cohesive security posture across the industry. Imagine the complexity if organizations had to navigate vastly different compliance requirements as they scaled. It'd be a huge barrier.
Yeah, definitely.
So this coherent regulatory ecosystem, it simplifies the compliance journey, establishes a clear, progressive path for developing robust security maturity.
Okay, let's turn to the scope then. Who exactly is mandated to adhere to these fundamental requirements? The document seems quite precise on applicability.
It is. It directly applies to entities seeking to qualify for SAMA's regulatory sandbox environment.
Okay, the sandbox entrance.
And/or entities actively pursuing a license to operate within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
So basically, if you're a budding fintech with plans for KSA, this doc is essential reading right from the start.
Absolutely. It functions, as they put it, as a catalyst, an enabler to meet those minimum SAMA cyber resilience licensing requirements. It's your foundational entry ticket.
Got it.
But there's an interesting nuance here, a critical distinction, really.
What's that?
The document explicitly states this framework should not be treated as a replacement for SAMA's more comprehensive cybersecurity and business continuity management frameworks.
So it's a starting point, not the end game.
Exactly. That cannot be overstated. It clearly signals that while these fundamentals establish a vital baseline, entities are still obligated to comply with other relevant SAMA regulations after getting their license.
This is a stepping stone.
A stepping stone, precisely. Not the ultimate destination for security maturity. And it also stipulates it must be read in conjunction with the requirements in SAMA's regulatory sandbox framework.
So it introduces this concept of a minimum baseline in cybersecurity.
Yes. It's essential to establish that starting point. But why is it equally important to understand that compliance isn't static? It's an ongoing adaptive process.
Because the threats keep changing.
Relentlessly.
Unless.
The cyber threat landscape is incredibly dynamic. A robust foundation is necessary, absolutely, but that foundation has to be adaptable, expandable, to counter evolving threats.
So these requirements ensure even the newest players aren't operating in a security vacuum.
Correct. They mandate a solid security footing. But they also implicitly communicate that security maturity is a continuous journey, not a one-and-done state.
Since the floor, not the ceiling.
Beautifully put. It sets the floor for cyber resilience, not the ceiling, encouraging perpetual improvement.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. Who holds responsibility for this document? And what happens with non-compliance?
CIEMA is the mandated owner. They're singularly responsible for its periodic updates, ensuring it stays relevant.
And if you don't comply?
The consequences are laid out unequivocally. CIEMA explicitly reserves the right to prohibit an entity's graduation from the sandbox.
Ouch.
Or deny their license request if they fail to demonstrate adherence. That's a powerful incentive to get this right from the very beginning.
Definitely put some teeth into it.
And placing this in a broader context, CIEMA isn't just the owner. They are also solely responsible for providing interpretations of the principles and controls if needed.
Why is centralizing interpretation important?
It's crucial for consistency. It ensures rules are applied uniformly across all entities, preventing ambiguity, closing potential loopholes. In a fast-moving regulatory space, that single source of truth is vital for fairness, clarity, and overall stability.
Avoids different players playing by different rules based on interpretation.
Exactly. That could lead to inconsistent security postures across the market, which undermines the whole point.
Now, the target audience listed in the document is remarkably broad. It's not just for the tech teams, is it?
Not at all. It's specifically tailored for senior and executive management, business owners, anyone responsible for information assets.
Heads of cybersecurity, obviously.
And importantly, anyone else involved in defining, implementing, and reviewing cybersecurity and resilience controls within the entity. It captures a really diverse range of roles.
From the C-suite down to the practitioners.
Precisely.
So why such a wide net? Why involve senior management and business owners so directly?
Well, it underscores a fundamental principle. Cyber resilience is not and cannot be solely an IT problem. It's a core business and governance issue.
Needs that top-level buy-in.
Absolutely. For it to be truly effective, it demands active leadership buy-in, a clear understanding from business owners about the risks in their specific operations, and a unified cross-departmental approach.
So it's about embedding security into the organizational culture.
Exactly. Making sure everyone, regardless of their role, understands their part in safeguarding information assets, rather than just handballing it to the tech department.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, given that threats are constantly evolving, it's good to see CIEMA has a process for review, updates, and maintenance.
Yes, that's reassuring. They're committed to periodically reviewing the fundamental requirements.
To assess if they're still applicable, given the dynamic KSA financial sector.
Right. And if the reviews show updates are needed, CIEMA will promptly update them based on those outcomes. They use stringent version control, too.
Retiring old versions, communicating new ones.
And very helpfully, they pledge to clearly indicate any specific changes in revised versions. That's invaluable for compliance teams.
No doubt.
And it's really insightful to see that explicit commitment to review and communication. In cybersecurity, static frameworks become obsolete incredibly quickly.
The threat environment changes daily, almost.
It's incredibly dynamic. New attack vectors, vulnerabilities, sophisticated attacker methods. They're constantly emerging. So it's imperative for regulatory frameworks to be agile, responsive.
Keeps the requirements relevant and effective against current and future threats.
Exactly. Prevents them from becoming just a checklist of outdated practices.
Okay, to wrap up this introductory section, the document helpfully provides its own reading guide.
Yeah, which illuminates how the rest of it is structured.
It indicates Chapter 2 will elaborate on the structure and application guidance.
And then Chapter 3 presents the core domains security and resilience, detailing all the specific control requirements.
Which is really useful for our deep dive today, as we're essentially following that guide right now.
It shows a really methodical approach to presenting complex information, breaking it down logically.
Absolutely. So, armed with this foundational understanding from the intro, let's now transition into Chapter 2. Let's uncover the actual fundamental requirements, structure, and features. The blueprint, as it were.
Yeah, that's good. Let's get into the architecture.
All right, let's delve into Chapter 2 now. This focuses on the core structure and features of these fundamental requirements.
Yeah, this is where we learn how it's systematically organized and the philosophy behind its implementation, the design principles.
So the requirements are built upon a distinct structure, segmented into what they call 4 key domains, although it's slightly nuanced.
Go on.
Well, the text explicitly lists 3 named domains: cybersecurity leadership and governance, cybersecurity operations and technology, and resilience.
Okay, governance, ops, resilience.
Yeah,
Got it.
but figure 2 in the document, the visual depiction, shows cyber resilience fundamental requirements right at the top, like an umbrella.
So the document itself is kind of the fourth overarching domain.
That's how it reads. It encompasses and gives rise to the other 3, creating this holistic structure. And beyond these domains, it details that unique numbering system for controls, like 3.1.1.
Which makes referencing specific requirements clear and precise.
Exactly.
What stands out here is how comprehensive these domains are. They really span the entire spectrum of cyber resilience.
From strategy down to recovery.
Precisely. From strategic leadership, high-level oversight, down to the granular day-to-day operational stuff. And crucially, that ability to recover effectively. It's truly holistic.
And separating these domains is important. Why?
Well, it clarifies the distinct yet interconnected roles. Strategic oversight, that's governance. Day-to-day defenses, technical controls, that's operations. And the ability to bounce back, ensure continuity, that defines resilience. Each piece is vital.
Okay. Now, a particularly insightful aspect here is the emphasis on a risk-based approach.
Yes, this is pivotal. It definitely balances those dual imperatives. Rigorous security and fostering innovation.
So how so?
Well, the controls offer essential guidance on mitigating common risks, but they're meticulously designed, and this is key, without placing undue burden on them that could stifle innovation and business growth.
A pragmatic balancing act by the regulator.
Very much so. It's intelligent.
So how does SAMA actually achieve that delicate balance, especially for new entities trying to innovate quickly?
The risk-based approach is the answer. It establishes a mandatory baseline, yes, but critically, it expects entities to conduct their own internal risk assessments.
So they have to evaluate their specific situation.
Exactly. The purpose is dynamic. Continuously monitor the evolving threat landscape, identify new or evolving risks specific to their context, evaluate the potential impact, and then, where necessary, implement additional or enhanced controls beyond the fundamentals.
And this has to align with their risk appetite.
Precisely. And risk appetite is a profoundly significant concept here. It's a strategic decision by the organization itself.
About how much risk they're willing to accept to achieve their goals.
You've got it. A nimble fintech startup might have a higher risk appetite in some areas to accelerate innovation, maybe focusing protection heavily on its core IP or customer data.
Whereas a big established bank might have a much lower tolerance for risk overall.
Exactly. So this risk-based approach empowers entities to strategically direct their security investments where they yield the most impact for their specific business model and risk profile. It's not just a generic checklist.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So with these requirements in place, how does SAMA ensure they're actually put into practice?
They use a dual mechanism: entities self-assessment and SAMA audits.
Self-assessment first.
Yes. Entities perform periodic self-assessments using a specific questionnaire. A copy goes to SAMA, who can review it for compliance.
But SAMA can also check themselves.
Crucially, yes. SAMA explicitly reserves the right to audit the compliance at any time. So even if the self-assessment looks good on paper, SAMA can verify it independently.
That combination seems effective. Self-assessment plus external audit.
It is. It promotes internal accountability, forces organizations to scrutinize their own posture, fostering ownership.
But self-assessment relies on honesty, diligence.
Precisely. Which is why the external audit component is indispensable. SAMA's right to audit provides that unbiased verification, ensuring rigor, mitigating complacency or misrepresentation. It's a vital system of checks and balances.
Okay, structure and oversight are clear. Let's move to the heart of it. Chapter 3, the actual control requirements.
Right. This is where the practical implementation really begins, the actionable stuff.
Now we arrive at Chapter 3, control requirements. This is really the operational heart, the meat of the document.
Yeah, this is where SAMA specifies the precise actions entities must take, your granular, actionable to-do list.
We start with cybersecurity leadership and governance. These controls address how cybersecurity is managed from the top.
Ensuring it's integrated into the very fabric of the organization.
Control ID 3.1.1 kicks things off. Develop a robust cybersecurity governance structure with appropriate resources to oversee the whole approach.
And starting with governance is crucial. Why? Because without strong leadership, clear direction, dedicated resources, technical controls alone can be ineffective.
So 3.1.1 emphasizes allocated resources, clear authority lines.
Elevating cybersecurity beyond just IT. It becomes a strategic imperative, driven from the top, sets the tone.
Next, 3.1.2, Define, approve, implement, and communicate cybersecurity policies and procedures.
And these need support from detailed security standards, like
Yeah.
specific password rules, firewall standards.
Right. So policies are the what, procedures the how.
And standards provide the actionable specifics. That layered approach eliminates ambiguity, provides a clear guide for everyone, ensures consistency.
And crucially, 3.1.3 requires periodic review and updates of all these policies, procedures, standards.
Explicitly in light of the evolving cyber threat landscape.
Which is paramount because security isn't static.
Not at all. The threat landscape is in perpetual flux. New vulnerabilities, new attack methods. A static policy quickly becomes obsolete. This mandate keeps the framework responsive.
Okay, now for deeper integration. 3.1.4 directs entities to incorporate cybersecurity requirements into new and existing business operating models.
This includes evaluating cybersecurity and fraud risks specific to their model.
And adopting measures against advanced adversarial attacks. They even give examples: model stealing, malicious inputs, poisoning attacks.
Yeah, like model stealing an adversary trying to reverse engineer a proprietary machine learning model, highly relevant for innovative fintechs.
Or malicious inputs designed to trick a system. Poisoning attacks corrupting AI training data.
These are sophisticated threats aimed at the core business logic.
Then, a foundational control. 3.1.5. Establish and implement a strong password policy.
Covering all the bases. Change on first logon, minimum length, history, complexity.
Revoke access after 3 incorrect tries, non-caching techniques, all standard best practices, really.
It's essential nonetheless.
And finally, for governance, 3.1.6, execute comprehensive IT and cybersecurity risk assessments.
Covering infrastructure, networks, apps, systems, and the effectiveness of controls already in place.
And all identified risks must be documented in a central risk register.
Which must be periodically monitored and reviewed. It's a living document.
Right.
What's striking about these governance controls is just how broad they are, from embedding security in business models like in 3.1.4
to the practicalities of password policies in 3.1.5, and that overarching need for ongoing risk assessment in 3.1.6.
Yeah, 3.1.4 signifies that crucial shift security isn't an afterthought. It's intrinsic to business design. Proactive, not reactive.
And 3.1.5, while basic, is that critical first line of defense influencing user behavior.
And 3.1.6 underscores that continuous cycle of risk management. The risk register isn't static. It tracks vulnerabilities, status, mitigation. It breathes.
And these all build on the wider SAMA CSF framework, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Controls like 3.1.1 link directly to CSF's cybersecurity governance, 3.1.6 to cybersecurity risk management. It shows that unified, integrated approach.
Okay, next up, cybersecurity operations and technology.
Section 3.2, the engine room, as I called it.
This is where we get into the practical, hands-on technical measures for daily protection. Lots of detail here.
These are the systems, processes, technologies defending against threats in real time, the tangible implementation of those governance decisions.
Starting with secure access. 3.2.1 mandates an identity and access management process,
Governing logical access based strictly on need to have and need to know.
which is all about least privilege.
Exactly. Grant only the minimum access needed for a role. Minimizes potential damage if an account is compromised. Contains the blast radius.
Then 3.2.2 requires a robust change management process.
Ensuring any changes to information assets are classified, tested, approved before production deployment.
And it must incorporate cybersecurity requirements for controlling those changes.
Critical. Uncontrolled changes are a prime way vulnerabilities creep in, or malicious modifications are made. Every change needs vetting.
Moving to network defenses. 3.2.3. Establish and maintain a secure network architecture.
With segmentation based on service functionality, using firewalls between segments.
While ensuring availability, of course.
Right. Segmentation is fundamental defense in depth, like compartmentalized firewalls in a building. If one area is breached, containment is easier.
And data protection. 3.2.4 mandates secure and robust cryptography algorithms.
And ensuring all application and server communications are encrypted using secure protocols.
Non-negotiable for data confidentiality and integrity.
Absolutely. Protects data in transit and at rest from unauthorized access, eavesdropping. Essential.
Now for proactively finding weaknesses. 3.2.5. Periodically conduct comprehensive vulnerability assessments, or VAs.
Covering both application and infrastructure layers.
Complementing that, 3.2.6. Conduct penetration testing, or PT, at least twice a year or after major changes.
To evaluate defense capabilities through simulated attacks.
And crucially, 3.2.7. Ensure up-to-date patches are tested, applied, installed timely.
To prevent breaches from known existing vulnerabilities.
So VA finds known weaknesses, PT tries to exploit them.
You got it. VA gives breadth. PT provides depth. They're complementary. And timely patching, well, that's just an essential, relentless battle against known exploits. Unpatched systems are low-hanging fruit for attackers.
Okay, application-specific security, 3.2.8, says beyond secure SDLC, entities should implement shielding techniques.
Like code obfuscation, white box cryptography, anti-tampering.
Suggests SAMA is particularly focused on protecting the IP of innovative fintechs here, an extra layer.
It emphasizes shifting left, embedding security early in development, not fixing it later. Much more efficient.
Next, 3.2.9 focuses externally. Implement effective brand protection controls.
To detect and defend against targeted attacks, continuously monitoring online services, apps, social media, websites.
And proactively taking down malicious activities or impersonations.
Right. It highlights that external-facing dimension of security, protecting reputation, customer trust from online fraud or fake sites.
Endpoint security is covered comprehensively in 3.2.10.
Securing all endpoints personal if allowed, corporate with minimum requirements.
Real-time protection of vandalware.
Yeah.
Behavioral signature-based detection, updated signatures, regular scans.
And for mobile devices, separating and encrypting entity data, secure wiping on loss, theft, or decommissioning, covers laptops, servers, mobile phones, everything.
And the rationale.
Endpoints are often the initial point of compromise. Layered defenses for every device are critical to prevent breaches and contain intrusions early.
Okay, what about detecting and responding to events? 3.2.11. Establish processes to collect, process, review, retain security logs.
Sufficient detail for investigations retained securely for at least a year for continuous monitoring.
Building on that, 3.2.12. Ensure critical apps and infrastructure components are integrated with a SOM solution.
Security information and event management.
Then, 3.2.13 emphasizes continuous security monitoring and analysis of events.
For prompt detection and effective response.
And when an incident does happen, 3.2.14 mandates a cybersecurity incident management process.
For timely identification, response, and containment.
So logs are the breadcrumbs for investigations.
Indispensable. And a SIEM centralizes that vast data, correlates it, gives a unified view. Fundamental for detect and respond.
In 3.13, 3.14 acknowledge incidents will happen.
Pragmatically, yes. Even with great prevention, things occur. The goal then shifts to rapid detection, agile response to minimize damage. Speed is paramount.
User session security. 3.2.15 requires session timeout configurations. Reasonable timeframes.
Specifically, inactive sessions shouldn't exceed 5 minutes for apps and underlying infrastructure.
Simple but effective.
Very. Reduces the window for unauthorized access if a workstation is left unattended or a session hijacked.
And finally, an OBSTEC. 3.2.16, a crucial regulatory obligation. Immediately inform SAMA.
Via their designated channel. For incidents classified medium or above.
Covering cybersecurity incidents, fraud, and all disruptive incidents.
Right. This mandate underscores that obligation for transparency and collaboration with SAMA during significant events. It's not just about the entity, it's about sector-wide stability, enabling the regulator to see and mitigate broader systemic risks.
And again, these operational controls often reference the wider SAMA CSF.
Yes, reinforcing that integrated approach across identity management, app security, change management, infrastructure, crypto, incident management, vulnerability management. It's all connected.
Okay, that covers a lot of ground. Finally, we arrive at the resilience domain, section 3.3.
This is singularly focused on ensuring that even when the worst happens, entities can keep operating and recover effectively, building that robust bounce-back capability.
Minimizing downtime, guaranteeing continuity of critical services.
Exactly. Resilience is the ultimate litmus test of a cybersecurity program. It goes beyond prevention. It's about ensuring continuity when disruptions inevitably occur. It proves the value of your proactive measures.
The first control here, 3.3.1, is all about planning. Business Continuity Plan, BCP, and Disaster Recovery Plan, DRP.
Must be defined, approved, communicated, implemented, and periodically reviewed.
The objective, enabling entities to continue delivering critical services at an acceptable, predefined level.
And it's vital to see the distinct roles. BCP focuses on the overall business operations, how critical services continue, maybe with manual workarounds.
While DRP is IT-centric.
Right. Detailing steps to restore IT systems, data, infrastructure after an outage. Both are indispensable. And that phrase, acceptable predefined level, means realistic, measurable recovery objectives, not just wishful thinking.
And periodic review and testing are non-negotiable.
Absolutely. A plan gathering dust on a shelf is useless in a crisis.
Then 3.3.2 covers the absolute backbone, backup and restoration.
Entities must define and implement requirements considering a comprehensive list.
Legal regulatory needs, critical customer data, business requirements, backup schedule, daily, weekly, monthly.
Protection of backup data through encryption, storing backups offline or off-site.
Secure destruction when no longer needed, and critically, regular restoration tests.
Yes. This highlights the multifaceted nature of a truly robust backup strategy. It's more than just copying data.
Encryption is key. Offline, offsite storage too.
Crucial. Provides an air gap against sophisticated ransomware that targets backups. And those restoration tests cannot emphasize enough. A backup is useless if you can't restore from it.
And these resilience controls align with SAMA's BCMF.
Clearly, referencing sections on BCP, DRP, and CyberResilience itself shows integrated, consistent planning across the board.
Okay, we've thoroughly explored the control requirements, but there's one more critical section, the appendices, specifically the glossary.
Ah, yes. Definitions matter. Hugely important.
Right, let's turn our attention to the appendices, specifically that glossary. It's an incredibly valuable component.
Absolutely. Even with meticulous drafting, specialized terms can cause ambiguity. This glossary provides precise definitions.
And understanding these isn't just semantics. It's crucial for accurate interpretation, effective implementation. Ensures everyone's speaking the same language.
It really is insightful how these definitions clarify concepts that might seem straightforward but have very specific meanings in a regulatory context. It makes you ask, are we all on the same page when we talk cyber resilience? The glossary helps ensure that.
Let's look at a few key examples.
Good idea. Take cyber resilience itself. The definition emphasizes operating under adverse conditions, even degraded, while maintaining essential capabilities and recovering effectively. It's holistic beyond just security to include continuity and recovery.
Not just preventing bad things, but handling them when they happen.
Precisely. Then cyber risk, simply a measure of threat and likelihood. Understanding that definition is fundamental to applying that risk-based approach effectively guides prioritization.
Okay, what about governance?
Cybersecurity governance, responsibilities of the board setting strategic direction, ensuring objectives, managing risk, using resources responsibly, directly reinforces Control 3.1.1. Security starts at the top.
And business continuity.
Yeah. Business continuity, BC, business continuity management, BCM, are clearly differentiated. BC is the capability to continue delivery post-incident. BCM is the holistic management process to build that resilience. Indispensable for understanding 3.3.1.
How about some technical terms?
Penetration testing. Actively attempting to circumvent security features. Reinforces its proactive role in validating defenses, 3.2.6. SIME. Gathers security data, presents actionable information, links directly to its integration requirement, 3.2.1.
You mentioned one term earlier that was particularly interesting, periodically.
Ah, yes, that's a fantastic one. The document explicitly states SAMA does not define a default time interval. Entities determine it based on their risk-based approach.
So it could be daily for one thing, quarterly for another.
Exactly. It shows flexibility but places significant responsibility on entities to exercise sound judgment based on their context. It's not a simple checkbox, it requires ongoing thought.
Very nuanced.
And finally, the threat landscape. A collection of threats in a context, vulnerable assets, actors, trends, connects directly to the need for continuous monitoring and adaptive security.
So the glossary is more than just definitions.
Much more. It's a guide to the underlying philosophy of the entire framework. And with that, well, we've walked through the cyber resilience fundamental requirements from start to finish.
Okay, so what profound insights can we really glean from all this? Our deep dive into SAMA's cyber resilience fundamental requirements. Hopefully it's given you a strategic shortcut to being exceptionally well-informed on this critical topic.
It really stands as a meticulously designed roadmap, empowering new financial entities to build robust cyber defenses right from their foundations.
Balancing that rapid innovation with unyielding security. We've explored the significance of that holistic approach, governance, operations, resilience.
And highlighted the pragmatic wisdom of the risk-based mindset, letting entities focus efforts where they have the greatest protective impact.
And above all, that need for continuous vigilance and adaptability. Cyber defense isn't static. It's a continuous journey of improvement.
And placing this in a broader context. This document, it's more than just rules. It's a testament to the idea that in our interconnected digital world, trust is the ultimate currency.
Yeah.
It really compels us to consider a critical question. As technology relentlessly marches forward, how do we ensure the frameworks designed to protect us remain agile enough? Agile enough to anticipate not just current threats, but the threats we haven't even imagined yet.
That's a big question.
It is. And while this is tailored for the KSA financial sector, its core principles, strong governance, continuous risk assessment, robust operational controls, resilient recovery, they hold universal applicability.
Think about how these ideas might extend to other industries.
Or even inform your own personal digital security practices. The lessons here resonate far beyond just fintech.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this enlightening deep dive into cyber resilience.
Been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious and most importantly, stay secure.